Jiwoo stepped off the transport ship with 2 large bags in her hands. One bag held her teaching supplies. The other held her personal belongings. She looked around the massive station and smiled. This was Veltara Prime, her new home. The station was enormous. Tall ceilings stretched high above her head. Lights of different colors glowed from shops and walkways. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridors. Some walked on 2 legs like her. Others had 4 legs or 6 or slithered along the ground. Jiwoo had seen pictures, but seeing them in person was different. She walked toward the main concourse, following the signs to the human quarter. As she moved forward, something strange happened. The aliens near her suddenly backed away. A tall, insect-like creature pressed itself against the wall. A group of small, furry beings scattered in different directions. Even a large, armored alien that looked like it could crush a building moved aside quickly. Jiwoo thought maybe she was in their way. She bowed politely and said, "Excuse me, sorry." But they moved even farther away. Their eyes, all different shapes and colors, watched her with what looked like fear. She didn't understand. She was just a kindergarten teacher. Why would anyone be afraid of her? The human quarter was quieter. Here, at least, people smiled at her. A guard at the entrance scanned her credentials and welcomed her to the station. He pointed her toward the residential section where her apartment waited. Her apartment was small but clean. 1 room with a bed, a small kitchen area, and a bathroom. A window looked out at the stars. Jiwoo unpacked her bags and placed her teaching supplies carefully on the table. Picture books, colored paper, crayons, building blocks, everything she needed to start her classroom. The next morning, Jiwoo went to see her classroom. The station had converted a storage room in the human quarter into a teaching space. It wasn't large, but it had good lighting and enough room for small desks and a play area. She spent the whole day setting it up. She hung colorful posters on the walls. She arranged the desks in a circle so the children could see each other. She created a reading corner with cushions and books. As she worked, she noticed movement outside her door. Several aliens stood in the corridor, watching her through the window. When she looked up and smiled, they scattered like leaves in the wind. This happened 3 more times. Jiwoo began to feel lonely. She wanted to make friends with the other species, but they all seemed terrified of her. On the 3rd day, her first students arrived. Their names were Hyun and Minji, twin siblings who had just turned 5 years old. Their parents were human diplomats working on the station. The children were shy at first, hiding behind their mother's legs. Jiwoo knelt down to their level and smiled warmly. "Hello, Hyun. Hello, Minji. I'm Teacher Jiwoo. Would you like to see our classroom?" Minji peeked out first. "Do you have toys?" "I have lots of toys," Jiwoo said. "And books and art supplies and even a little kitchen set where you can pretend to cook." Hyun's eyes grew wide. "Can we play now?" Their mother laughed with relief. She had been worried about finding a teacher for her children. "I'll pick them up this afternoon," she said to Jiwoo. "Thank you so much for doing this." After the mother left, Jiwoo showed the twins around the classroom. They played with blocks. They looked at picture books. Jiwoo taught them a song about colors. The twins were happy and bright. They asked questions about everything. During their snack time, Jiwoo noticed faces at the window again. More aliens than before. They pressed close to the glass, watching the human children with intense interest. Some of them held recording devices. Others took notes on data pads. "Teacher, why are they watching us?" Hyun asked, his mouth full of apple slices. Jiwoo looked at the crowd outside. "I think they're just curious about our classroom," she said. She waved at them. They all jumped back, startled. That afternoon, a tall insect-like being approached her as she locked the classroom door. His exoskeleton was a deep blue color, and his multiple eyes reflected the corridor lights. He wore a security uniform. "I am Kelvin," he said in careful, practiced human language. His voice clicked and buzzed. "I am the security chief of this station. I must ask you questions." Jiwoo nodded politely. "Of course. Is something wrong?" Kelvin seemed surprised by her calm tone. "You are teaching human juveniles here. This is permitted by station law, but many species are concerned. Humans are predators, apex predators from a death world. Your children are also predators. Some fear they are dangerous." Jiwoo blinked in confusion. "Dangerous?" "They're 5 years old. They play with blocks and sing songs about butterflies. How could they be dangerous?" "You have forward-facing eyes," Kelvin explained. "Binocular vision. This is the mark of a hunter. Your teeth can tear meat, Your planet has high gravity, dangerous weather, and countless deadly creatures. You evolved to survive all of that. Your species conquered your world. Now you bring your young here. Many species believe you are training them to hunt. Jiwoo stared at him. Then she laughed. She couldn't help it. The idea of little Hyun and Minji as dangerous predators was ridiculous. They cried when they scraped their knees. They needed help tying their shoes. Calvin's antennae twitched. He seemed confused by her laughter. "I'm sorry," Jiwoo said, wiping her eyes. "I'm not laughing at you. It's just that we're not training them to hunt. We're teaching them to share and be kind and use their words instead of hitting. That's what kindergarten is for." "Words instead of hitting," Calvin repeated slowly as if this was a strange concept. "Yes. Children need to learn how to be good people. They need to learn how to make friends and solve problems peacefully. That's my job." Calvin was quiet for a long moment. His many eyes studied her face. "You truly believe this, and of course I do." "It's the truth," he nodded slowly. "I will include this in my report. Thank you for your cooperation, Teacher Jiwoo." He turned to leave, then paused. "One more question. Tomorrow morning, will you walk the juveniles from their residence to your classroom?" "Yes, their mother asked me to pick them up each morning. It's easier for her schedule." "I see." Calvin's antennae twitched again. "I will observe this. For security purposes." He walked away, his footsteps clicking on the metal floor. Jiwoo watched him go, still confused about the whole conversation. Dangerous predators, training cubs to hunt. It all seemed so silly. She was just a kindergarten teacher. She taught children how to share crayons and wash their hands before snack time. There was nothing scary about that. But as she walked back to her apartment, she noticed how other aliens moved away from her. How they watched her with wide eyes. How some of them whispered to each other as she passed. For the first time, Jiwoo began to understand. To them, she wasn't just a teacher. She was something else. Something they feared. She just didn't know why yet. The next morning, Jiwoo walked to the residence section to pick up Hyun and Minji. She wore comfortable clothes and carried her teaching bag over her shoulder. Inside the bag were lesson plans, snacks, and a first aid kit. She always carried a first aid kit. Children were always getting small scrapes and bruises. The twins were waiting outside their door, dressed and ready. Their mother gave Jiwoo a grateful smile. "They've been excited since they woke up," she said. "That's how I know you're a good teacher." Jiwoo took each child by the hand. Hyun held her left hand, Minji her right. They began walking through the corridors toward the human quarter where the classroom waited. "Teacher, can we have story time today?" Minji asked, skipping a little as they walked. "Of course. Which story do you want to hear?" "The one about the rabbit and the turtle." "That's a good one," Jiwoo agreed. As they walked through the main concourse, something happened. The busy station seemed to freeze. Aliens stopped in their tracks. Conversations died. Everyone stared at the human woman and the two small humans. Jiwoo felt dozens of eyes on her. She looked around, puzzled. The children didn't notice. They chattered happily about their morning and what they wanted to play during free time. Then she saw him. Kelvin, the security chief, stood near a pillar. He watched them intently. His hand rested on a recording device. When Jiwoo made eye contact, he nodded once but didn't move. Other aliens began pulling out their own recording devices. They filmed the small group walking past. Some whispered urgently to each other. A few backed away until they pressed against the walls. "Teacher, why is everyone looking at us?" Hyun asked quietly. Jiwoo squeezed his hand gently. "They're just curious, sweetie. We're new here. They want to see what humans are like." "Oh." Hyun seemed satisfied with this answer. "Can I wave at them?" "Of course you can." Hyun lifted his free hand and waved enthusiastically at a group of small, furry aliens. They squeaked in alarm and scattered. Hyun looked confused. Why did they run away? "Maybe they're shy," Jiwoo suggested. They reached the classroom without incident. The rest of the morning passed normally. Jiwoo taught the twins about shapes. They drew pictures with crayons. They played a counting game with colored blocks. During snack time, they practiced saying please and thank you. The crowd outside the window grew larger. By lunchtime, at least 30 aliens pressed against the glass watching everything that happened inside the classroom. This continued every day. Each morning, Jiwoo walked to pick up Hyun and Minji. Each morning, the station seemed to hold its breath as they passed. And each morning, Kelvin was there watching from a distance. On the 5th day, 3 more human families arrived on the station. They had children. By the end of the week, Jiwoo's class had 8 students. 4 girls and 4 boys, all between ages 4 and 6. Now the morning walk was longer. Jiwoo led the group with 2 children holding her hands. The other 6 walked in pairs behind her, each pair holding hands with each other. They looked like a small parade. The aliens' reactions grew stronger. Some species bowed slightly as the group passed. Others made gestures that Jiwoo didn't understand. Kelvin now brought 2 other security officers with him. All 3 watched the morning walk carefully. On the 10th day, something important happened. They were halfway through the main concourse when little Minji tripped over her own feet. She fell hard on the metal floor. Her knee hit first, then her hands. She started crying immediately. Jiwoo stopped instantly. She knelt down beside Minji, her bag already open. "Let me see, sweetheart. Let me see where it hurts." Minji held up her hands. Both palms were scraped and red. Her knee was bleeding through a tear in her pants. All around them, aliens froze. Recording devices focused on this moment. Kelvin moved closer, his hand on his weapon. Jiwoo didn't notice any of this. She pulled out her first aid kit and worked quickly but gently. She cleaned Minji's hands with antiseptic wipes. She dabbed at the scrape on her knee. Minji sniffled and hiccuped, tears running down her cheeks. "I know it stings," Jiwoo said softly, "but we need to clean it so it doesn't get infected." "You're being very brave." "It hurts," Minji whimpered. "I know, baby, I know." Jiwoo applied antibiotic ointment and covered the worst scrapes with colorful bandages that had cartoon characters on them. Then she pulled Minji into a hug. "There, all better, see? You have special bandages now." Minji looked at the bandages through her tears. "They have puppies on them." "That's right. And you know what? When we get to class, you can pick out a sticker for being so brave." "Really? Really?" Jiwoo stood up, still holding Minji. The little girl wrapped her arms around her teacher's neck. Jiwoo carried her the rest of the way to the classroom, with the other 7 children following quietly behind. The aliens watched this entire scene in complete silence. Many of them recorded every moment. Kelvin's hand had dropped from his weapon. He stood very still, his antennae moving in what might have been confusion. That evening, Jiwoo was preparing the next day's lessons when someone knocked on her classroom door. It was Kelvin. "May I speak with you?" he asked. "Of course. Come in." Kelvin entered carefully, as if the small classroom might be dangerous. He looked at the children's drawings hanging on the walls, at the toys organized in neat bins, at the reading corner with its soft cushions. "I have watched you for many days," he said finally. "This morning, when the juvenile fell, I recorded your response." "Okay," Jiwoo said, not sure where this was going. "You stopped immediately. You cared for her injury. You spoke softly. You held her. You comforted her." He paused. "This is not what I expected from a predator." Jiwoo felt tired suddenly. "I'm not a predator. I'm a teacher." Minji got hurt. Of course I helped her. That's what teachers do. That's what any adult should do when a child gets hurt. Any adult of your species. Any adult of any species, I would hope. Kelvin made a clicking sound. His translator device struggled to convey his emotion. "You truly believe this? That all beings should protect the young? Don't you believe that? My species does. But we thought humans were different. We thought you raised your young to be warriors, to be conquerors." Jiwoo laughed, but it was a sad laugh. "We raise our children to be kind, to be smart, to solve problems with words instead of fists, to help people who need help. That's what being human means. Words instead of fists," Kelvin repeated. He had said this phrase before. Now he seemed to understand it better. "You teach them peace. I teach them how to be good people." Kelvin was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that surprised Jiwoo. "Tomorrow morning when you walk the juveniles to class, I would like to walk with you. Not behind you, beside you." "Why?" "Because I wish to understand. And because I believe I have been wrong about humans." Jiwoo smiled. "You can walk with us. You're welcome any time." Kelvin bowed, a gesture that looked awkward with his insect body. Then he left. The next morning, when Jiwoo began her walk with the 8 children, Kelvin was waiting. He fell into step beside her, his tall form moving smoothly beside her small human frame. The children stared up at him with wide, curious eyes. "Are you a bug?" one of the boys asked. "I am Vishiri," Kelvin answered. "We resemble what you call insects, yes." "That's cool," the boy said. And just like that, the security chief walked with them to class. Behind them, 2 more security officers followed at a respectful distance. They didn't speak, but their presence felt different now. Not threatening, protective. Something was changing on Veltara Prime. Jiwoo didn't fully understand it yet. She just knew that the walk to class felt a little less lonely now. 3 weeks passed. Jiwoo's morning routine became familiar to everyone on the station. Each day at exactly 8 o'clock in the morning, she collected her 8 students and walked them through the main concourse to the classroom. Kelvin walked beside her now. Behind them, 5 security officers from different species followed at a respectful distance. The children grew comfortable with this arrangement. They chatted with Kelvin, asking him questions about his homeworld and his species. He answered patiently, and sometimes Jiwoo saw what might have been amusement in his multiple eyes. Other species on the station stopped running away when Jiwoo approached. They still watched carefully, but the fear seemed less now. Some even nodded greetings as the group passed. Then came the morning that changed everything. Jiwoo was leading her students through the main concourse as usual. The children were excited because today they would learn about colors mixing together to make new colors. Little Hyun was explaining to his sister that blue and yellow made green, and Minji was arguing that it made purple. Ahead of them, near the central hub where several corridors met, a commotion erupted. Loud roaring sounds echoed off the walls. Something large was moving violently. Kelvin held up one hand. "Stop here," he said firmly. Jiwoo stopped immediately. She pulled the children closer to her. "Everyone hold hands with your partner," she said calmly. The children obeyed quickly. Through the crowd of fleeing aliens, Jiwoo saw what was causing the problem. A massive creature, easily 3 times her size, stood in the center of the hub. It looked like a bear but walked on 2 legs. Its fur was dark brown and thick. It wore merchant clothes, now torn and disheveled. The creature roared again, swinging its huge arms. It knocked over cargo containers. Other aliens scattered in panic. Station security officers tried to approach, but the creature was too strong and too wild. It grabbed one officer and threw him across the hub. The officer crashed into a wall and didn't move. "Gorvan merchant," Kelvin said quietly. "Neural panic attack. Common to their species under stress. He cannot control himself right now." More security officers arrived. They carried weapons but didn't fire them. Jiwoo understood why. In this crowded space, stray shots could hit innocent people, and the creature wasn't trying to hurt anyone on purpose. It was sick, panicking. The Gorvan merchant stumbled and roared again. Its eyes rolled wildly. It was breathing too fast. Foam dripped from its mouth. Jiwoo recognized the symptoms. She had seen panic attacks before in children and adults. The rapid breathing, the wild movements, the inability to focus. This creature wasn't dangerous. It was terrified. "Can you get it medicine?" she asked Kelvin. "Medical teams are coming, but they cannot get close enough to administer aid. The Gorvan's strength is too great. What if someone calmed it down first?" Kelvin looked at her sharply. "Impossible. In this state, Gorvans cannot be reasoned with." Jiwoo made a decision. She turned to her students and knelt down to their level. "I need you all to sit against this wall right here. Stay together. Hold hands. Don't move until I come back." "Teacher, where are you going?" Minji asked, her voice worried. "I'm going to help that person who's scared. Kelvin will stay here with you. You'll be safe." The children sat down against the wall as instructed. They held hands tightly. Kelvin moved to stand between them and the Gorvan, his body tense. "Teacher Jiwoo, do not do this," he said urgently. "That creature will kill you." "No, it won't. It's having a panic attack. It's scared, not angry." Jiwoo started walking toward the Gorvan. "This is madness," Kelvin hissed, but he didn't stop her. He couldn't, not without leaving the children unprotected. Jiwoo walked forward calmly. Around her, aliens pressed against walls or fled down corridors. Security officers shouted warnings at her. She ignored them all. Her eyes stayed focused on the suffering Gorvan. As she got closer, the creature noticed her. It roared, a sound so loud it hurt her ears. It raised one massive arm, ready to strike. Jiwoo stopped walking. She didn't run. She didn't flinch. She looked directly at the Gorvan's wild eyes and spoke in a firm, clear voice. Not shouting, not whispering. Just clear and steady. "Hey, look at me. Look right at me." The Gorvan paused, confused. Prey didn't walk toward predators. Victims didn't use that tone of voice. That's good. "You're doing great. Now listen to my voice. Just my voice. Nothing else matters right now. The creature's breathing was still rapid, but it lowered its arms slightly. I know you're scared, Jiwoo continued. I know everything feels wrong right now. But you're safe. Nobody here wants to hurt you. The Gorvan made a lower sound, almost a whine. I need you to breathe with me. Can you do that? Watch my chest. Breathe in when I breathe in. Jiwoo took a slow, deep breath, making the motion obvious. Good, now breathe out when I breathe out. She exhaled slowly. The Gorvan's chest moved, trying to match her rhythm. That's perfect. You're doing so well in and out, in and out. Jiwoo kept breathing slowly and obviously. She kept talking in that same calm, steady voice. The voice she used when a child was crying or afraid. The voice that said everything would be okay. The Gorvan's movements slowed. Its breathing became less frantic. After several minutes, it sank down onto all four legs. Its eyes were still wide, but the wildness was fading. That's it. You're safe now. The medical team is going to help you. They'll make you feel better. Medical personnel rushed forward with equipment. They injected the Gorvan with something that made it relax completely. It lay down on the floor, breathing normally now, looking exhausted. Jiwoo walked back to her students. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her face was calm. The children jumped up and surrounded her, all talking at once. Teacher, that was scary. You were so brave. Is the big creature okay now? Everyone's fine, Jiwoo said, hugging them. Everything's fine. Should we go to class now? She looked up at Calvin. The security chief stood completely still. His antennae trembled, his eyes fixed on her with an expression she couldn't read. That was... He started, then stopped. His translator seemed unable to find the right words. You walked toward danger unarmed to help someone. He needed help. Jiwoo said simply. You could have died. But I didn't. And now he's getting the medical care he needs. Calvin made a series of clicking sounds. Then he said, Every species on this station saw what you just did. The security feeds recorded everything. They watched a human approach a violent, panicked Gorvan. They watched you calm it with only words. They watched you risk your life to help someone you don't even know. Jiwoo didn't understand why this was such a big deal. That's what you do when someone needs help. You help them. Yes, Calvin said quietly. Yes, that is what you do. They walked to the classroom. The children were unusually quiet, processing what they had seen. When they arrived, Jiwoo set up the color-mixing activity as if nothing unusual had happened. The children painted and experimented with mixing different colors together. But outside the classroom, something was happening. Aliens gathered in small groups, talking urgently. They played and replayed the security footage. A human woman walking toward a deadly creature, talking it down from a panic attack, using the same methods she used to calm frightened children. A scholar named Thren watched the footage 12 times. He was a serpentine creature, all scales and intelligence. He had been studying humans since they joined the Galactic Coalition. He thought he understood them. Now he realized he understood nothing. Humans weren't just predators. They were something else. Something the galaxy had never seen before. They were protectors. That afternoon, the Gorvan merchant woke up in the medical bay. He remembered everything. When he learned that a human had saved him, he wept. He asked to speak to Jiwoo, but she was teaching class and couldn't be disturbed. Calvin went to the medical bay instead. She will not accept your thanks, he told the Gorvan. She believes she did only what anyone should do. The Gorvan looked at him with large, sad eyes. But she did what no one else could do. She walked toward me when everyone else ran away. Yes, Calvin agreed. She did. And in that moment, the security chief made a decision. Tomorrow morning, when Jiwoo walked her students to class, something would be different. The next morning began like any other. Jiwoo woke up, got dressed, and walked to the residential section to collect her students. The 8 children were ready and waiting, excited about the day ahead. Today they would learn about plants and how they grow. Hyun held her left hand. A little girl named Yuna held her right. The other 6 children paired up behind them. They walked toward the main concourse, chattering about what kind of plants they wanted to draw. As they rounded the corner into the main concourse, Jiwoo stopped suddenly. The children bumped into each other behind her. Calvin stood there as he always did. But he wasn't alone. 3 other security officers stood with him. They were all in full uniform, standing at attention. When Jiwoo and the children appeared, All four of them straightened even more and placed their right hands over their hearts. It was a salute. A formal military salute. Jiwoo blinked in confusion. "Good morning," she said uncertainly. "Good morning, Teacher Jiwoo," Calvin replied. "Please proceed. We will walk with you." "Oh, okay." She started walking. The four security officers fell into step behind her and the children. They walked with perfect military precision, their footsteps synchronized. Other aliens in the concourse stopped to watch. Some of them placed their own hands over their hearts as the group passed. Jiwoo didn't understand what was happening, but she didn't want to ask questions in front of the children. They reached the classroom without incident. The security officers took up positions outside the door. "We will wait here," Kelvin said. "You don't have to do that," Jiwoo protested. "We're safe in the classroom, we know. We choose to wait here." Jiwoo went inside with her students, still confused. Through the window, she could see the four officers standing guard. More aliens gathered in the corridor watching them. The day passed normally. The children learned about seeds and roots and leaves. They planted bean seeds in small cups of soil. They drew pictures of flowers. During snack time, they talked about their favorite plants. When the school day ended, Jiwoo walked the children back to their homes. The security officers followed behind. This time, there were 5 of them instead of 4. A large armored creature had joined the group. Jiwoo recognized it as a Torvin, one of the species known for their strength and combat skills. That evening, Thren the scholar came to visit Jiwoo in her classroom. She was cleaning up the day's art supplies when he slithered through the door. "Teacher Jiwoo, may I speak with you?" "Of course. Please come in." Thren moved into the room, his long body coiling carefully to avoid knocking over the small furniture. His scales shimmered in the light. "I have been studying your species since you joined the coalition. I thought I understood humans. Yesterday I realized I was wrong. Wrong about what? About your nature. We classified humans as apex predators. This is accurate. You have all the physical traits, the forward-facing eyes, the endurance, the intelligence, the ability to work in coordinated groups. You evolved on a death world where everything tried to kill you. You survived. You thrived. You conquered your entire planet." "Okay," Jiwoo said slowly. "I guess that's true. But we missed something crucial. We saw the predator but not the purpose. We saw the weapon but not the reason for the weapon. I don't understand." Thren's eyes, large and golden, fixed on her. "Yesterday you walked toward a panicked Gorvin, a creature that could have killed you with one strike. You were unarmed. You had no protection. But you walked forward anyway. Why? Because he needed help." "Exactly. Because he needed help. Not because he was your offspring. Not because he was your species. Not because you would gain something from saving him. You helped because someone needed help." Jiwoo still didn't see why this was remarkable. "That's just being a decent person." "No," Thren said firmly. "That is being human. Most species protect their own young. Some protect their pack or herd. A few protect their entire species. But humans? You extend your protection to everyone. You see someone in need, and your instinct is to help. You don't ask if they're the same species. You don't calculate the cost or benefit. You just help." Jiwoo thought about this. "I suppose so. But isn't that normal?" "It is normal for humans. It is extraordinary for the rest of us." Thren uncoiled slightly, a gesture of respect. "We feared you because you are predators. We were right to recognize your strength. But we failed to understand that your predator instincts serve a different purpose. You didn't evolve to hunt. You evolved to protect. Your aggression, your strength, your intelligence, all of it developed to defend those who cannot defend themselves. I never thought about it that way. That is because, to you, it is simply natural. But to the rest of the galaxy, it is revolutionary. Last night I presented my findings to the Coalition Council. I showed them the footage of you calming the Gorvin. I explained what it means. This morning, warriors from every species on this station requested permission to honor you. Honor me? Why? I'm just a teacher. You are a human teacher. You walk through danger to reach your classroom. You care for the young, not just your species, but any young. Yesterday, you proved you would protect any being in need. To warriors, to soldiers, to anyone who has ever taken an oath to defend others, you represent the ideal. You are what we all aspire to be." Jiwoo sat down in one of the small chairs, overwhelmed. "I just want to teach kindergarten." And that is precisely why you deserve this honor. You don't seek glory. You seek only to help others grow and learn and be safe. The next morning, Ji-woo understood what Thren had meant. When she arrived to collect her students, 15 security officers waited in the corridor. They represented 8 different species. All of them stood at attention. As Ji-woo and the children walked through the concourse, the officers fell in behind them. They walked in formation, silent and respectful. Other aliens stopped what they were doing to watch. Many of them saluted as the group passed. The children thought it was exciting to have so many guards. They whispered to each other about which species looked the coolest. Ji-woo felt embarrassed by all the attention, but she didn't know how to make it stop. When they reached the classroom, she turned to the assembled officers. "Thank you for walking with us. But you really don't need to do this every day." Kylvan stepped forward. "Teacher Ji-woo, we do need to do this. You walk unarmed through these corridors. You protect the young. You help anyone in need. We walk behind you as a sign of respect. We walk behind you as a promise. No harm will come to you or the children while we breathe. But I don't need protecting. We know. That is not why we do this. We do this because you taught us something important. True strength is not about the capacity for violence. True strength is about choosing to protect others. You are stronger than any of us because you face danger without weapons, armed only with compassion and courage." Ji-woo's eyes filled with tears. She didn't know what to say. A massive Torvan warrior, his armor gleaming, knelt down so he could look her in the eye. "I have fought in 17 battles. I have killed enemies and protected allies. I thought I understood what it meant to be a warrior. Then I watched you walk toward a panicked Gorvan with nothing but kind words. You showed me what real bravery looks like." Other officers nodded in agreement. "Tomorrow," Kylvan said, "more warriors will join us." Word has spread throughout the station. Everyone wants to walk behind the teacher who protects all children, who helps all beings, who shows us what it truly means to be strong. Ji-woo wiped her eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Say you will allow us this honor." She looked at the assembled warriors, at their earnest faces, their different forms, their unified respect. She thought about what Thren had told her, about being human, about protecting others. "Yes," she said finally, "you can walk with us. But the children come first, always." "Always," the warriors agreed in unison. Inside the classroom, 8 children waited eagerly to start their day. Outside, 15 warriors took up positions guarding the door. And throughout the station, more warriors prepared to join tomorrow's walk. Something was spreading through Veltara Prime. Understanding, respect, a new way of seeing humans, not as terrifying predators but as tireless protectors, not as conquerors but as guardians. And at the center of it all was a simple kindergarten teacher who just wanted to help children learn and grow. 2 weeks passed. Each morning, more warriors joined the walk. On the second day, there were 20. On the third day, 35. By the end of the first week, over 60 warriors from 15 different species walked behind Ji-woo and her students. The children got used to it. To them, it became normal to have a small army following them to school. They waved at the warriors, who sometimes waved back. Little Hyun had learned the names of 12 different species. Minji could identify which warriors came from which worlds by looking at their uniforms. Ji-woo tried to stay focused on her job. She taught the children their numbers and letters. They learned about sharing and kindness. They painted pictures and sang songs. The classroom became a haven of normalcy in the middle of all the attention. But outside the classroom, something bigger was happening. The footage of Ji-woo calming the Gorvan had spread beyond Veltara Prime. It traveled through the communication networks to other stations, other planets. Humans were suddenly seen differently, not as dangerous predators to fear, but as potential allies to trust. Then came the day that changed everything forever. The Galactic Coalition had scheduled a major diplomatic summit on Veltara Prime. Ambassadors from 40 worlds were arriving to discuss trade agreements and peace treaties. The station was busier than Ji-woo had ever seen it. Important officials walked through the corridors. Security was everywhere. Ji-woo tried to keep her routine normal for the children's sake. On the morning of the summit's opening day, she went to collect her students as usual. But now she had 15 children. More human families had arrived, and all of them wanted their children in teacher Ji-woo's class. She couldn't hold all their hands anymore. Instead, she had them form a line, each child holding hands with a partner. She walked at the front with Hyun and Minji on either side of her. When they emerged from the residential section into the main concourse, Jiwoo stopped so suddenly that the children bumped into each other behind her. The entire concourse was filled with warriors. Hundreds of them, maybe more. They stood in formation along both sides of the wide corridor, creating a path down the middle. Every species on the station was represented. Tall Vashiri like Kelvin, massive Torvins in gleaming armor, sleek Salons with their weapon-like limbs folded respectfully, even a few Gorvins, including the merchant that Jiwoo had helped, standing at attention in formal dress. They were all completely silent. All standing perfectly still. All facing forward toward the path Jiwoo would walk. Jiwoo's heart pounded. She looked for Kelvin and found him standing at the head of the formation. He stepped forward. "Teacher Jiwoo," he said, his voice carrying in the silence. "The warriors of Velterra Prime request permission to honor you." What is all this? Today, ambassadors from 40 worlds gather here. They will discuss the future of the galaxy. We want them to see something first. We want them to see what humanity truly represents. We want them to see you. But I'm just taking the children to class. Yes, that is exactly the point. Kelvin gestured to the assembled warriors. We are soldiers, guards, defenders. We carry weapons. We train for combat. We stand ready to fight. But you taught us something important. The greatest strength is not in violence. It is in protection. It is in compassion. It is in walking forward to help others even when it's dangerous. He bowed deeply. Behind him, hundreds of warriors bowed in unison. Please, Kelvin said, walk with us. Show the galaxy what it means to be human. Jiwoo looked at the children, 15 small humans looking up at her with complete trust. Hyun squeezed her hand. It's okay, teacher. They're our friends. She took a deep breath. Okay, we'll walk together. The procession began. Jiwoo walked forward slowly, conscious of the small children holding hands behind her. The warriors fell in behind them, their footsteps synchronized and silent. Down the main concourse they went, through the heart of the station. Aliens who weren't part of the procession lined the corridors. Some held up recording devices. Others simply watched in silence. Many placed their hands over their hearts as the group passed. The children weren't scared. They pointed at decorations on the walls. They asked Jiwoo questions about what they would learn today. Their innocent chatter was the only sound besides footsteps. Teacher, will we paint again today? Can we go to the observation deck this week? I want to show you my drawing from yesterday. I took it home. Jiwoo answered each question patiently, naturally. She was a teacher walking her students to class. That's all she had ever wanted to be, but to everyone watching she was so much more. She was proof that humans, despite their predator nature, chose gentleness. She was evidence that the most dangerous species in the galaxy use their strength to protect, not to conquer. The procession reached the diplomatic summit area. Ambassadors from 40 worlds had gathered in a large observation gallery to watch. They had been told something important was about to happen. Now they watched as a human woman walked past with 15 children and over 300 warriors following behind her. The warriors moved with perfect precision. But the human walked with easy comfort, swinging the children's hands gently, smiling at their questions. The contrast was powerful. The warriors showed what humans could be. The teacher showed what humans chose to be. When they finally reached the classroom, Jiwoo turned to face the assembled warriors. They stood at attention, hundreds of different beings unified in respect. Thank you, she said simply. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for walking with us. Thank you for protecting all the children of this station. Kelvin stepped forward again. No, Teacher Jiwoo. Thank you. Thank you for showing us that the fiercest warrior is not the one who seeks battle. It is the one who stands between the innocent and danger, armed with nothing but conviction. The warriors saluted. It was a universal gesture, performed in dozens of different styles. But the meaning was the same. Honor, respect, gratitude. Jiwoo bowed to them, then turned and led her students into the classroom. The door closed behind them. Inside, she began the day's lessons. Outside, the warriors dispersed to their regular duties. But everything had changed. In the diplomatic summit, Ambassador Thren presented his research about humans. He showed footage of Jiwoo's daily walks, of her calming the panicked Gorvin, of her gentle care for any child who needed help. We feared humans because they are predators, Thren told the assembled ambassadors. We were right to recognize their strength, but we failed to understand their purpose. Humans evolved to be protectors. Their predator instincts are triggered not by prey but by threats to those they care for, and their capacity to care extends beyond their own species. They have welcomed us into their protection. They have extended their pack bonds across species lines. He paused, letting this sink in. They are not conquerors. They are guardians, and the galaxy is safer with them in it. The summit hall was silent. Then, one by one, the ambassadors began to discuss what this meant. Trade agreements were signed. Peace treaties were proposed. The Galactic Coalition voted to formally recognize humanity's role as peacekeepers and protectors. But Jiwoo knew nothing about any of this. She was in her classroom, teaching 15 children how to count to 50 and how to share the colored pencils. When little Minji accidentally knocked over her juice cup, Jiwoo cleaned it up without complaint and got her a new one. When two boys argued over a toy, she helped them work out a solution where they could both play with it. This was her job. This was her calling, not politics or diplomacy or making grand gestures, just helping children learn and grow and feel safe. That afternoon, as she walked the children back to their homes, the warriors were there again. Not as many as in the morning, but enough. They walked behind her quietly, their protection a gift she never asked for but had earned through simple kindness. Calvin walked beside her now as he had for weeks. The summit went well, he told her. New alliances were formed. Because of you. I didn't do anything special, Jiwoo protested. I just take care of children. Yes. And in doing so, you showed the galaxy who humans really are. You showed them that strength without compassion is just violence. But strength in service of protection? That is true power. Jiwoo thought about this as they walked. She looked at the children holding hands in their line. At the warriors walking respectfully behind them. At the other aliens who no longer fled but watched with curiosity and respect. I hope they're right about us, she said quietly. I hope we can be what you think we are. You already are, Calvin replied. Every day you prove it. They reached the residential section. The children said goodbye to their teacher with hugs and promises to see her tomorrow. The warriors dispersed to their posts. Jiwoo walked back to her small apartment alone, carrying her teaching bag. She looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there were 40 worlds that now saw humanity differently. Somewhere out there were children of other species who might grow up without fear of humans. Somewhere out there the galaxy was changing. But tomorrow morning, Jiwoo would wake up and do the same thing she did every day. She would collect her students. She would walk them to class. She would teach them to be kind, to be curious, to be good people, because that was what mattered. Not grand gestures or diplomatic summits, just the daily choice to help others, to protect the vulnerable, to be gentle in a universe that could be harsh. That was what being human meant to her. That was what she would teach her students. And that ultimately was why warriors from across the galaxy chose to walk behind her, not because she was strong, but because she showed them what strength was truly for. The next morning began like any other. Jiwoo woke up, got dressed, and went to collect her students. The children were excited because today they would learn about music and rhythm. They sang little songs as they walked through the station. The warriors were there, as always. Not hundreds anymore, but a respectful group of 20 or 30 who had made this morning walk part of their routine. They walked behind the teacher and her students, protecting them from dangers that rarely came. And Jiwoo led her small line of children to class, teaching them the most important lesson of all through her simple daily actions. That true strength lies not in the capacity for violence but in the choice to protect. That the greatest warriors are those who defend the innocent. That being human means extending your care to anyone who needs it, regardless of what they look like or where they come from. The lesson continued every single day, one morning walk at a time. And the galaxy learned,